back in the olden days, before streaming services, and before scrolling through movies on your phone, you literally had to get in a car, drive to a store, walk up and down the aisles just to find a movie you wanted to rent. And you couldn't afford to mess up your rental. If you rented a movie and it stunk, well, tough luck. You have to wait another full week before you could go and rent another one. Your parents weren't just gonna drive you back there that night. And what was the best way to determine if a movie was worth watching or not without actually watching the movie? Well, you had to judge a movie by its cover. I remember so many amazing and eye-catching covers, not like that bland, lifeless movie art we get nowadays that all looks the same. Back in the day, these covers were magical. And as a young kid who loved animals and all things spooky, no cover grabbed my attention like 1980's Alligator, this humongous gator wading in the sewer's water with the sharpest teeth. It told you everything you needed to know. It spoke to me, and I wanted to watch that movie so bad, but my parents never let me rent it because of one simple letter. R. Yeah. I wasn't allowed to watch R-rated movies as a kid, and it destroyed me at the time. Luckily, I was the third and final child in my family, and my parents stopped caring what I watched once I became a teenager. Even though Alligator was my holy grail, I unfortunately never got to see it. Years passed, and in 2022, the good people at Scream Factory cleaned it up and released it on 4K and Blu-ray. So, is Alligator worth a lifetime of pent-up hype, or is this one gonna disappoint my younger self? Well, let's find out together. Welcome to the HellBound Horror Show. Big killer animals in film is honestly nothing new, and was actually a huge overused trope in 1950s drive-in cinema. You got giant leeches, giant killer shrews, giant Gila monsters, and who could forget them? You know, them, the giant ants. But let's be honest here. It wasn't until 1975's Jaws that the subgenre got critical acclaim. There was now a formula to follow, and movies like Orca, Grizzly, and Pirahana were made to cash in on Jaws' success. Alligator isn't far removed from that either. The inspiration is clear, but Alligator does some interesting things that elevate it slightly above just being a mere ripoff. Alligator doesn't take much time before it really gets going. Young Marissa is watching an alligator show when an alligator handler accidentally trips. The gator attacks the man's leg. The crowd barely reacts because they don't know if it's part of the show or not. Luckily, the crew is on site and able to save the handler. Marissa, this child, just witnessed a traumatic experience that I'm sure she will feel for the rest of her life. But nah, she goes to the store and buys a baby alligator as a pet because why not? She even grows up and does groundbreaking alligator research. Nothing like a traumatic experience to shape the rest of your life in a positive way? But we'll get more into her later. Little Marissa cares for her little alligator, that is, until her dad gets mad and flushes it down the toilet. Now everyone knows this urban legend. That little gator survives and lives in the sewers, growing up and becoming more menacing over the next 12 years. Our lead, Detective Madison, played by Robert Forster, is buying a dog at a pet shop. There's some funny banter about receding hairlines between the shopkeep and the detective.
Just what you're going through.
What are you looking at?
The patch on the back, the thinning of the front, you know what I mean? Same thing, you know?
Yeah.
This shopkeep is working with a local laboratory and is stealing dogs off the streets so that doctors can work on some groundbreaking hormone research with them. The different drugs given can make dogs grow exponentially larger. Well, when they are done working with these dogs, they throw them in the sewer, and guess who's been eating all these dogs? Yeah, and guess who's been benefiting from these enlargement pills? Yup, the gator. And he's eating everyone in sight. Limbs are showing up everywhere, and it is up to Detective Madison to figure it all out. Along the way, he teams up with scientist and gator expert Marissa from the beginning of the movie. Of course, there's a budding romance, but first, they must put a stop to the gator before it eats the whole town. Alligator can be a lot of fun for a killer mutant animal on the loose kind of movie. It doesn't do a lot to push the genre forward, but I do like the use of a real alligator with miniatures intermixed with a mechanical menace. It's a pretty effective illusion most of the time, but other times it can be painfully obvious. Alligator was an independent film made for relatively cheap, but it really holds up. It's a great cast, great director. The effects are effective. There are amateurish moments, sure, like at one point they do a star wipe. No! A star wipe? Who in their right mind would ever do a star wipe? What are we, 5? Oh no! The music can be a little too similar to Jaws' theme at times. But overall, it holds its own. Some say that the movie is a little slow, and yeah, that is true, but when it hits, it hits. There's a pool scene with some kids that legitimately shocked me. And the end party is a blast to watch. It was really cool to find out that Bryan Cranston worked on this movie. It was when he was first starting out in the industry and was getting any job he could. He was working on some of the special effects and mostly worked on making blood and putting all of it in the crevices of the gator. Cranston also met Robert Forster while making this movie, and he reflects on that time in a touching interview. Alligator is imperfect. If you're looking for originality, it's not really there. It's a Jaws ripoff even down to some of its characters, but it's charming enough. And hey, even if the movie isn't perfect, we at least got a really cool toy from an R-rated film.
The alligator wants food to chew. Feed him just right or he'll feed on you. The Alligator Game.
Neat. It's weird. I wanted to see this movie my whole life, but I wasn't allowed to because it was rated R. Well, the sequel was rated PG-13, and let's just say I have a deep, long history with the sequel. It's one of the movies that helped influence my love for the horror genre, but in ways you wouldn't expect. Without Alligator 2, I wouldn't be a horror fan. But that's a story for another night. That's all I have for tonight, so thank you so much for watching, and stay spooky, everyone. What movie poster did you fall in love with as a child? I'd love to know in the comments below. See you later, alligator. Bye.